the US is increasingly threatened by a rising China. China does not threaten the US militarily, but China threatens US dominance in the world. And because of this, US strategic preoccupation now is with trying to slow China down, contain China, pull down China if possible. So all of us are familiar with the chip war which is going on, and the systematic effort done by whole departments in Washington to find ways to slow down China, to degrade China if possible. Of course, whether they succeed or not depends on how China responds. So Taiwan is caught in this larger struggle. So the question for Taiwan is this: you cannot affect US-China relations, but you can decide how much you want to be used by America against China. If you decide that you want to be used by America against China in the hope that one day there is a chance the door opens and I rush up and become independent, then understand that there is a big risk involved. But I think it is better for ordinary people who only want peaceful lives for themselves and their children to say, look, don't drag me in. This is your fight. This is your fight. So you notice that how much Taiwan green leaders may want to push, they are limited by what the US allows them to do. So the US will not allow Taiwan to affect their game. But if you allow yourself to be used by the US, you will be used by the US when it's convenient for the US. And if it's no longer convenient for the US, Taiwan will be sacrificed, which was what happened in 1972.
We are sorry to interrupt you, but before we move on to the next point, we noticed that a lot of you are returning viewers who have not subscribed. If you've enjoyed our content, subscribing would mean the world to us. It's a small click for you, but it makes a huge difference for us. Thank you for your support.
So I think if I were Taiwanese, I say no. I need the US because it improves my relationship, my negotiating position with China, but do not become a plaything of the US. Then all of us, our lives are at risk. But the idea is, do we see a common future? If we see a common future, then we'll find a way, step by step, even though there may have to be detours to get there. Then however close we are, in the end our paths will diverge. And when people talk, and they're very bright people on both sides of the street, when they start thinking, when they look back at history, when they have the inspiration from other countries and from other civilizations, they say, no, we can do this first, we can do that first. You compare mainland Taiwan relations today with what it was in 1980, 1990, 2000. You're already much closer than before. What you now have would have been unthinkable 20 years ago. So 20 years from now, make it closer still. Don't move back, move forward. And I'm sure that when people sit down to talk, many ideas will come up, some will be discarded, others will be considered, some will be practical. And the important thing is benefit people, fishermen, farmers, small businessmen, industrialists, tourists, students, scientists, researchers. If there's benefit, then people will get together, people will learn more, find out more. So for myself, my father was born in Singapore, his father was from China, my mother's from China. I tell my friends, learn more about China because it's going to become very big. If China's per capita GDP reaches half that of the US, it's a quarter now, then China's GDP will be equal to that of the US and EU combined. US and EU combined. Their domestic market is already as significant as the US. So whatever you do, whether as a scientist or as an employee or as a businessman, you cannot ignore China. And the more you study China, the more you say, yeah, I'm part of it. To some extent, even as a Singaporean, I feel I'm a part of it. Because that's my ancestry. and you will feel a part of it. But if you say, no, I don't want to know China, you demonize China, and you put that into young people's minds, eventually they will find out. But only after painful lessons. So Lee Kuan Yew was once asked, what if despite everything the Taiwanese insist on going this way? His reply was, well, it's a question of the price they have to pay before they learn the lesson. So the reason why we have this conversation is to reduce the price the ordinary Taiwanese will have to pay. You look at Ukraine. It is an unbelievable tragedy. To go back to where they were in February 23rd last year would have is the maximum position they can achieve now, after having lost hundreds of thousands of lives. For what? What have they gained? They could have avoided this position. The Ukraine ambassador in Singapore, a dear friend, Pavlo Sultansky, when the invasion happened, he wrote me an email how he avoided machine gun fire and tanks to make his way to Poland, where he had a son or a daughter working, and became the representative of the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry in Ukraine. When he was in Singapore, we had long conversations. He said, no, Russia will implode. Putin cannot remain. I said, but what if he does? So if you build all your hopes on the possibility that the other side will collapse, you will cut options off, and then in the end, you are trapped in a position which is very disadvantageous. So Taiwan now should open the possibilities for the future, not constrict it. And it's important that in the education of the young, the media, everyone has responsibility. But if in the end, people refuse, then we go back to what Lee Kuan Yew said. Then it's a matter of the price you have to pay before you turn back.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think he is right about how Taiwan will pay greatly if they close off all options? Please leave your comment below. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you for making it this far. If you like this video, you might want to share it with a like-minded friend. Thank you, and as always, stay blessed.